Zombeavers is actually not that bad. This might surprise you guys, but this is probably the best movie that I've watched so far for this channel. I mean, considering the caliber of films that I've reviewed so far, that's not really saying much and you might not be that surprised, but still. It might just be because I've watched such terrible excuses for motion pictures for the short time that I've been working on this channel that this is a masterpiece in comparison to the rest of them. But it's not the worst thing that I've ever seen. But before any of you assume that I'm going to be overly positive in this review, hold your horses. I have some positive things to say about the film, but I still think that this movie is a terrible, exploitative piece of garbage in terms of professional movie making. It should most definitely have a maximum of a 2.1 on IMDb, not a 4.8. I mean, hey, it's no Shawshank Redemption or American Psycho, but the film does achieve the goals it sets itself to achieve as a movie. And to be honest, I can't help but commend it for that. I really don't want to keep using the comparison card when reviewing these movies, but it's so difficult not to compare them to one another to explain why they're either terrible or just slightly less terrible than other bad movies. Plus, it's a good way to advertise my other videos, so you know, gotta get that YouTube money and all that. One of the things that I really hated about The Beaster Bunny was that it was reveling in the fact that it's a terrible but quote-unquote funny movie that was silly and supposed to be bad. But it wasn't funny in any capacity, and the silliness just irritated me as I watched it. I know that humour is subjective and everything, but I think the vast majority of people who watched it, especially after watching my video, can agree that The Beaster Bunny is not funny. Comedy is something that can't just be boiled down to a stupid looking monster and a dumb premise. You have to have something more than that to make something funny. The thing with Zombeavers is that it attempts to be a funny film that doesn't take itself too seriously, and it 100% achieves that. And because of that, I actually really enjoyed it when I first saw it. I was slightly drunk because it was Christmas Day, but you know, still. I mean, it's from the same producers of American Pie and Cabin Fever, for crying out loud. It's a movie called Zombeavers, and it's about zombie beavers. The tagline is, "You'll all be damned," spelt with 2 M's. It's just so perfectly stupid and ridiculous. You just can't make a movie called Zombeavers and expect people to take it seriously, and these people were aware of that. It might just be because Zombeavers was produced and distributed by an actual studio that people actually know, Universal Studios. Or the fact that one of the main characters is the bully from Fred. Or even the fact that I fucking love zombie movies. But there was something a lot more pleasant and not as cynical as something like Circus Kane or The Beaster Bunny. I mean, for one thing, the cover of Circus Kane just flat out lies to you and attempts to trick you into buying the movie by pretending to have anything to do with Stephen King's It. And The Beaster Bunny uses a cover that makes you think that the bunny that kills people within the product actually looks anything like a bunny, and not some weird puppet ferret thing from an old-ass episode of Doctor Who. The cover of Zombeavers does not lie to you. It pretty much shows you what's in the film. The girls on the cover are actually in the movie, and they do appear in those exact bikinis, unlike the girls in the Beaster Bunny cover. And the beavers look slightly better than they do in the movie, but they're pretty accurate in terms of design. Which is more than I can say for some films. In terms of budget, there isn't much to say because much like most of these terrible horror films, probably because they're ashamed, I couldn't find the estimated budget of Zombeavers. But what I did find, however, was the domestic gross, which was $44,000. Wow, that's embarrassing. I would have at least expected it to be $1 million. Damn. Get it? Damn. Moving on. The beginning of the film pretty much sets the tone for what the whole thing is going to be like. These 2 truckers are carrying toxic waste in the back of their truck and are driving very close to a river. You can probably guess where this is going. One of them talks about how much easier it is to date other men, despite this being set in the South and this kind of conversation being extremely unlikely for 2 straight Southern men. Well, I guess this one being straight is kind of questionable, but the other one looks like this. There is no way this conversation would happen.
Hey man, you see that deer up there?
Yeah, I see.
I don't think you do.
guy is fucking retarded. These two violently run over a deer in one of the most overly graphically violent scenes in cinematic history. Like, a deer would not have been that torn apart upon impact with a truck. I mean, I know that this is a movie called Zombeavers, but can it at least have a tiny bit of realism? And I'm pretty damn sure that if any sane human being saw that amount of blood and guts, they'd probably be reacting a bit more shocked or at the very least grossed out than this dude. Although considering how crap the other guy is at driving, I guess this is an almost daily occurrence for these two.
He's not gonna make it.
They carry disease.
Humans carry diseases as well. Children especially. Every time I'm around kids, I end up getting sick because they just carry the freaking plague with them. It's like they're harboring some kind of Dragon Ball Z attack ready to launch when they want to get an adult. I guess that by this movie's logic, I can just go around killing children and getting away with it then. Okay, so anyway, this is one of the overwhelmingly positive things that I have to mention about this movie. The title sequence. This whole thing is actually extremely charming and kind of cool. The animation for it is adorable, the beavers look cartooningly menacing, and the music that they use for it is very unique for a movie like this. No other bad monster or zombie movie that I have ever watched has used music like this, or had this kind of animation in the title sequence. The music kinda causes my mind to drift to the classic Scooby-Doo episodes that I used to watch over and over again as a kid. I seriously can't complain about this, the sequence is pretty damn cool. If the whole movie were as delightful as this title sequence, I would probably like it even more than I already do. Well, I mean, like is a strong word. Don't completely hate would probably be a better phrase to use. Oh, so this is the level of effects we're gonna get with the beavers. You know, it might just be me, but they're kind of weirdly cute. We're introduced to one of the main characters who's breaking up with her boyfriend, kind of, because he cheated on her.
Whoa.
Sorry, the ladies' room was occupied. Do you mind moving it?
Well, why don't you? I don't mind doing anything you ask me to do.
Calm down, mate. Your molestacious intentions are kinda showing. You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's probably jerking off in there. Wait a second, that guy's looking at her as well? Listen, alright, this girl is attractive, but she's not the knees of the bees or anything. One of her friends is way hotter than her, and she doesn't get anywhere near as much attention as this girl. Anyway, her friends have decided, well, I say friends plural, but the friend in the back kind of wants to bone her boyfriend so damn much that she's looking at dick pics of his in a car with her friends, and she evidently really doesn't want to be there. But they decide to cheer her up with a girls' weekend at a cabin that this girl's cousin owns. Now, listen, I know that I am being way more positive about this film than it deserves, but one thing that I actually like about these characters is that they actually have chemistry. In most horror movies like this, the girls are just there to show off their bodies for the underage guys who haven't figured out how to get rid of the parent lock on their family's computers, and I mean, well, these girls are as well, but their friendship is actually believable. When they interact, they genuinely seem like three friends going on a little vacation together, even if they're kind of fucked up people.
Would you rather watch your mom get murdered by your daddy, or get raped by your daddy while your mom had to watch?
Zoe, that's awful.
Would you rather? Answer it.
I don't know, it's just kinda nice to see a horror movie as stupid as Zombeavers actually have actors who do well with what they're given and can convince me that they actually have the relationships with the other characters that they're supposed to. As you guys can probably guess, the beavers are all now Zombeavers and have started taking the lives of people within the town. Why does this 16-year-old have a #1 dad cap on? Well, I mean, I guess this is supposed to be the South, right? Anyway, surprise surprise, he dies, and a nice innocent woman comes over to say hello to the girls when they reach the cabin in one of the most unnecessary scenes I have ever seen in a movie.
Are you looking after the house while your cousins are away?
I know, we're just up here for the weekend.
All right, unwinding in between all the exams.
Well, we were supposed to have torrid getaway sex, but Jen's guy cheated on her, so...
Like, why is this girl such a bitch? Why introduce this character when she's not important? Just cut to them getting into the cabin and maybe have the glasses girl mention that the neighbors are nice or something. You kinda don't need this scene. It's kind of unfunny and it just makes me dislike this character.
Oh, Jen, you are a horrible liar.
Okay, I texted him back.
Why are girls so attracted to such assholes?
Okay, this stereotype of girls being attracted to assholes is such bullshit. No girl wants to fuck an asshole. But Misa, isn't your fictional crush Negan from The Walking Dead who goes around killing people? Well, yeah, but he's a one-off. I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is kind of attractive, right? But your crush before that was Joe Carroll from The Following, who runs a murderer cult. Well, I mean, yeah, but he has a nice accent and he also likes literature. I like him because of that. But before that, it was moving on.
What is the big deal, you guys? People went like thousands of years without cell phones. You can go 2 days. Speak for yourself. What if there's like an emergency or something?
There's like a landline.
A what?
Oh, come on, you are not that young. I know what a landline is and I'm 21. But the important point to note here is that these girls don't have signal and only have a landline in case anything bad happens. Spooky. Also, side note, thanks for giving a reasonable explanation as to why calling for help is unlikely for these girls movie. Cause this girl is too dumb to know how a landline works. So the girls go swimming because obviously they need to show off their bodies. And the most attractive but cunty one decides to take her top off so that she can get a tan. Now, I know that I complained about the Beaster Bunny for constantly having nudity when it wasn't needed, and I feel the same way about this movie. But for some reason, it feels less scummy in this movie. The Beaster Bunny had actual porn stars in it, and the girls getting naked always felt like the start of a porno because of the acting, the dialogue, and the camera quality, which made it very uncomfortable to watch, especially since the first time I watched it, I was with my older brother. I mean, a guy literally gets a boner within the movie when a girl lays on his lap. It's fucking creepy. And it's the first movie I've watched in a while where they actually showed a girl's vagina as well. But Zombeavers only has this one girl actually show her breasts, and even the sex scenes don't feel as exploitative, and as we can see in the bloopers before the credits start, the actors actually had fun shooting those scenes, so it doesn't seem as uncomfortable. However, note that I said as exploitative and as uncomfortable, because it's still exploitative since the girls are walking around in skimpy outfits constantly and are blatantly just sex objects, even to their boyfriends. But it feels a lot less creepy than in the Beaster Bunny. Plus, this girl is hotter than any of the girls in that piece of shit, so it gets a Misa pass. Moving on, the girls go looking for beavers since they saw a dam when... Don't worry, if I saw a badly rendered CG bear in the woods, I'd cover my tits too. They're all saved by what can only be described as the best character in the movie.
Look at you three little heifers. My name's Smith, with a Y.
What?
You know, you might want to cover up. So we got decent folk out in this neighborhood. Family, you know, kids.
Yeah, we know. It's just that she lost her bikini top in the lake.
Talking about all three of you. Your little bare stomachs. Weird-ass little tattoos.
I actually love this guy. The girls decide to hang out in the cabin and play Would You Rather, a game that no one over the age of 18 actually plays.
I guess get raped by my dad?
No. Gross.
What, would you rather have your mom die?
I wouldn't do either. That's so fucking disgusting. You're sick.
God, what's the point of this game anyways?
I don't blame you. Your dad's real hot.
Man, they've taken daddy issues to a whole new level that I think is actually kind of scary. As you guys can probably guess, this is where the horror aspect of the film begins, if you can even call it that. The hot girl goes outside because they all heard a noise when... the bully from Fred shows up. Yeah, all the boyfriends turn up so that they can now have sex scenes. Now, despite everything about this film, there is only one thing that I seriously cannot get my head around about these characters, and I have a huge issue with this. And that is, how the actual fuck did he get her? How? So, as expected, all these characters go off and do the nasty, even the friend who didn't want the boys there in the first place. Way to stand by your friend who's been cheated on and needs her friend's support, girl. And these two have an awkward argument about what he did.
Missed you so much.
Miss you too.
Why is it playing suspenseful music when she already need him in the balls? The girl shows off her body for the camera, as expected, when... Whoa! The beaver isn't CG! I know that we already got a glimpse of the beavers beforehand and they weren't CG, but I have to give this movie credit for not using it at all for the beavers. Considering that the beavers actually had to be mutated in some way, it's kind of shocking that they didn't use CG for it. I mean, they look downright atrocious, but at least they're not CG. Anyone who reviews films knows that CG is just downright abused by the makers of bad horror movies. But this one had the balls to use practical effects for the main monsters of the movie. And because of that, the beavers don't look anywhere near as terrible as I thought they would. So our dashing heroes end up killing the beaver, throwing it out, and carrying on as if nothing happened. They kind of just assume that the thing had rabies or something. But despite that, it somehow managed to get into the bath of your cabin and could have infected one of you. You should probably still leave just in case, or maybe consult the neighbours about it, but whatever, I guess. We then discover that the most likeable character in the film was the one who the blonde girl's boyfriend cheated on her with, making everyone in this movie unbearable as people.
Well, you know, if you just tell her it was nothing, she's gonna believe you.
Maybe. But she'll hate me.
Tell that to my finger.
Are you crazy?
Okay, he clearly genuinely does not want his girlfriend back if he's doing stuff like this within her line of sight. Anyways, the hot girl's boyfriend gets pulled under the water and has his foot chomped off, proving that the blonde girl not getting in the water with the rest of them was probably a good idea.
Oh my God! Get out of the water!
No movie, you are not good enough to mimic the masterpiece that is Jaws, just no. Jen, why are you not out of the water yet? God, the beavers make this movie so much better. So, Jen ends up running to the phone and getting attacked by a Zombeaver while the others try and fight with the rest of them to get to shore. And after sacrificing their dog to the beavers, which was kind of a mean thing to do, not gonna lie, they manage to jump into the water and swim to shore. We also discover that the beavers have actually messed with the wires of the landline, so there's no way that they're gonna get help at all.
What are you doing?
This.
No!
Jesus. Any questions?
Wait, what? More shenanigans happens, the whole thing about Jen being cheated on gets revealed fully, and one of the boys and the hot girl head out to get her boyfriend some help with his foot. And while they're out and about, the beavers keep trying to get into the house. The hot girl ends up running into the best character in the movie again, and after the cheater's boyfriend dies, they drive back to the house instead of getting out of the car and walking to a hospital and shooting beavers on the way like anyone else would do. But since the place is boarded up, they have to run to the next house.
It's okay, baby. Come on.
What is that beaver even doing? Just running across the screen like meh. So, as time goes on, as an audience member, you're probably wondering what happens when a human is bitten or scratched by one of the Zombeavers. I mean, it's very well established that with normal zombies, people usually turn into a zombie themselves when they're infected. So, what do the people who are killed by these zombie beavers turn into? Surely they turn into normal zombies, right? Well... Honestly, that thing is way more terrifying than a normal zombie, and I would shit my pants if I saw that. As you can probably guess, because the hunter and the hot girl need conflict in their part of the movie, the boyfriend who was hurt earlier ends up turning too. R.I.P. best character in the film. To be fair, that's what I would do if I decided to star in Zombeavers too. The two remaining characters play Whack-A-Beaver for a bit before deciding that despite them really not having time for it, it's time to do the nasty. But not before the zombie beaver girl thingy jumps up and bites the guy right in the dick. Poetic. Just fucking poetic. You guys have no idea how happy I was when this guy died. He was such a dick. The hottest girl ends up surviving that jump from the window and saves her friend when they run into... holy shit, it's a Zombeaver bear. That's probably the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen. And it's brilliant. They manage to get away, but there's a stupid confrontation, the cheetah girl turns out to have been bitten or scratched or something, and the other girl survives by killing her, but then...
Hey, you see that girl?
Yeah, I see her.
I trust you.
Cue bloopers that are legitimately funny and probably funnier than the movie, and then cue credits. Boom! That's Zombeavers. Zombeavers is definitely a film that I would watch again. And it's the first one that I have watched for this review channel that I have actually enjoyed. It was actually kinda nice. It may not be a good movie by any means, but it doesn't really set out to be. It's not insulting, it's not annoying, it's just a bit of fun. It wants to be a funny, silly movie about something absurd that doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think it achieves that. It has a lot of flaws, but you're entertained through the whole thing, so the flaws don't really seem to matter. I would never say that this is a good movie, but it's way more of a movie than something like The Beaster Bunny. It has a coherent plot, it has characters that I can find at least a little funny, and it has cheesy but entertaining acting, and the monsters actually look like they're supposed to look like. And the movie didn't rely on CG, which was really refreshing. You guys have no idea how many shark movies I watch, and the amount of ridiculous CG that just makes the sharks look terrible is baffling. But this movie had the guts to actually use practical effects, which I think is kinda cool. It might just be because I have a soft spot for zombie films, since I haven't found a single zombie film that I genuinely don't like. But I do tend to base my hatred of a movie on how much I enjoyed it while watching it, and this movie was enjoyable. I wouldn't rate this movie highly at all. Like, it's not within my top 10 or even top 20 favourite movies, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. This is a movie that I would genuinely recommend to people. Not as a movie to watch alone and expect Schindler's List or anything. I would not recommend this to some kind of movie critic that only watches the highest caliber of films. This is something that you're supposed to watch with alcohol and some friends, maybe some pizza, and you have to watch it with the expectation that you're gonna have fun. Because that's what Zombeavers is. It's fun. I mean, the text at the end of the credits sums it up best. No animals were harmed in the making of this film, although a bear did receive a purple nurple. Not our fault, he started it.